know, 50, the way you run, this cannot be all that you have. Is there other stuff that you just have not shown?
Yeah, well, everything couldn't make was 4 episodes.
Right.
So it was a lot. You had to pick and choose things, like even in an area where he chooses to date people who he knows previously dated someone. He has a baby by a woman that was dating Tupac.
Wow.
To add to it, but we had to cut it down so he could.
For time. So are you coming out? I know next year is going to be a number 2. Season 2?
I just put it on YouTube.
I just put it on YouTube. Well, we can subscribe and get.
Just when you thought hip-hop rumor culture had finally hit its limit, 50 Cent kicked the door off the hinges and said, nah, y'all forgot how messy this can get. Because with one explosive claim tied to the long-whispered Cathy White scandal, timelines didn't just react, they panicked. Screens froze, group chats combusted, and everyone asked the same question at the same time. Why would he say this now? The name being dragged into the conversation? Jay-Z. The allegation? An alleged love child tied to Cathy White, a rumor. That's lived in the shadows for years, suddenly shoved into the spotlight with stadium lights. And let's be clear, when 50 talks, he doesn't whisper. He weaponizes curiosity.
He drops breadcrumbs like it's a survival show and watches.
The internet eat itself alive. Fans weren't just shocked. They were conflicted. Some laughed it off as classic 50 trolling. Others said the timing felt intentional, like a vault cracking open right when nobody was ready. Old threads resurfaced, old interviews hit different, and silence from certain corners suddenly felt louder than denial. If this sounds like a reach, buckle up. Because whether you believe it or not, this claim just turned hip-hop Twitter into a courtroom with no judge, no rules, and unlimited Wi-Fi. And trust me, by the end of this breakdown, you'll understand why people are saying this makes the Kardashians look like they're arguing over brunch reservations. This story didn't pop up out of nowhere. It's been lurking in hip-hop's basement for years, collecting dust, whispers, and side-eye glances like a cursed artifact nobody wanted to touch directly. And yet, somehow, it always found a way back into conversation. Because when a rumor survives this long without collapsing, people stop asking whether it's true and start asking why it won't go away. Enter 5-0. Sent, a man who treats internet chaos like a competitive sport. When he decided to drag the Cathy White story back into the spotlight, it didn't feel accidental. It felt like timing. Like someone reopening a file the industry quietly agreed to archive. And the name that instantly sent shockwaves through. Timelines? Jay-Z. Let's be clear from the jump. What follows is allegation, rumor, and long-running internet lore, not courtroom fact. But in hip-hop culture, perception has a funny way of outrunning proof. And when 50 Cent hints instead of explains, people assume there's smoke because he's acting like he's seen the fire. The Cathy White story has always lived in that uncomfortable gray area. Cathy White was linked to powerful figures, whispered about in blogs, and referenced in late-night threads that disappeared as fast as they appeared. For years, the conversation never fully formed. It hovered. And hovering rumors are dangerous, because they invite imagination to do the heavy lifting. What reignited everything was 50's tone, not outrage, not accusation, amusement, that familiar, unsettling amusement that suggests he's not surprised by what people are finally talking about.
He didn't lay out documents. He didn't read a statement.
He dropped implication like breadcrumbs and let the internet sprint into the woods. Fans immediately split into camps. One side laughed it off as classic trolling, the same guy who's built an entire second career off poking sensitive topics until they scream. To them, this was just another episode of 50 being 50. Stirring the pot because chaos trends better than silence. The other side froze because the timing felt too clean, too deliberate. And deliberate timing makes people suspicious. Why now? That question echoed everywhere. Because Jay-Z isn't just another rapper. He's a symbol, a blueprint, a brand built on control, discretion, and narrative discipline. Stories don't just stick to him by accident. When they do, it's usually because something disrupted the usual silence. And 50 Cent hinting at a name, even indirectly, crossed an unspoken line from rumor to provocation. Old threads resurfaced. Like zombies. Screenshots with questionable origins started circulating again. People dug up decade-old forum posts and acted like they were archaeological evidence. None of it proved anything, but proof wasn't the point. Momentum was. And momentum came fast. What made this phase especially volatile was how little anyone denied anything outright. No dramatic shutdowns, no legal language, just quiet. And in internet culture, quiet is interpreted as strategy. People don't ask, is this false? They ask, why isn't this being killed immediately? That's unfair, but it's how scandal ecosystems work. 50 Cent, meanwhile, kept doing what he does best, hovering just close enough to the fire to keep it burning without getting burned himself. He didn't repeat claims, he didn't clarify. He let implication do the work. And implication is powerful because it lets the audience feel like they discovered the truth. Jay-Z's legacy added another layer of tension. He spent decades cultivating an image of calculated restraint. So when a rumor threatens that image, people pay attention even if they don't believe it. Not because they want it to be true, but because they want to see how control responds under pressure. The first reactions were chaotic but familiar. Blogs ran allegedly headlines. Comment sections turned into debate stages. Some fans demanded receipts. Others argued that certain rumors don't survive this long without reason. And a quieter group, the most dangerous group, said, nothing and just watch. The silence matters. Because it means people are processing, not reacting. And when audiences move from reacting to processing, a story stops being disposable. It's important to underline what didn't happen here. No DNA tests, no legal filings, no verified confirmations. Nothing that would move this from gossip to fact. But scandals don't always need evidence to cause damage. They need curiosity, credibility, and a megaphone. And in this case, the megaphone belonged to someone who knows exactly how loud he is. By the end of this phase, the internet wasn't asking whether the allegation was true. It was asking why it was resurfacing now, who benefits from it resurfacing, and what silence in response actually means. That's when a rumor becomes a narrative. Once the claim hit escape velocity, the internet didn't just talk about it, it assembled. Timelines became courtrooms, comment sections became jury boxes, and everybody suddenly had a closing argument. Ready? That's the thing about a rumor with just enough history and just enough credibility. It doesn't ask permission to spread. It dares you to stop it, and at the center of the storm was 50 Cent doing exactly what he does best. Nothing. No clarifications, no retractions, no tidy explanations. Just a few strategically placed moments that felt like winks to the chaos. When someone known for trolling suddenly chooses restraint, the internet assumes there's a reason. Silence. In this context, felt like gasoline. The reaction cycle kicked in immediately. First came disbelief wrapped in humor. People joked about hip-hop genealogy charts and family trees with DLC. Memes compared the rumor to a season finale nobody asked for, but everyone watched anyway. Laughter is always the first defense. Mechanism. It buys time while people decide whether to take something seriously. That phase didn't last long. As soon as users started digging, the tone shifted from jokes to investigation. Old blog posts resurfaced. Forum threads from the early internet got screenshot like ancient manuscripts. Clips from interviews were replayed at half speed with captions like "Listen close." None of it proved anything, but proof wasn't the goal anymore. The goal was pattern recognition. And once people believe they see a pattern, they stop caring about holes. The name Jay-Z carried the weight that turned this from gossip to spectacle. This isn't someone who lives loudly online. His entire brand is precision and restraint. So when a rumor touches him and doesn't get immediately stomped out, people read meaning into the pause. That's unfair, but fairness doesn't trend. Defenders moved quickly, calling the claim reckless, harmful, and recycled nonsense dressed up as revelation. They pointed out the obvious allegations without evidence are just noise. They accused 50 of doing what he's always done, trolling for engagement and letting the internet do the dirty work. And they weren't wrong about his history, but critics countered with a different argument. This rumor has been around too long to be random. They didn't say it was true. They said it was persistent. And persistence in the court of public opinion is treated like circumstantial evidence. That's how internet logic works. Flawed, loud, and emotionally persuasive. Then came the amplification. Content creators smelled blood in the algorithm. Everything you missed, videos popped up within hours, stretching 10 seconds of implication into 20-minute breakdowns. Titles screamed about industry secrets and why this keeps coming back. Monetization met mystery and views poured in. Once a story becomes profitable, it doesn't die quietly. TikTok took it even further. Creators stitched reactions with dramatic music, adding captions like "allegedly" in tiny font while the rest of the video screamed certainty. That contradiction didn't matter. The vibe mattered. And the vibe was suspicion. What escalated things was the vacuum of official response. No firm denials, no legal language. No, this is false statements making the rounds, just quiet. And in scandal culture, quiet doesn't calm nerves, it ignites imaginations. People don't assume innocence. They assume strategy. Every move became symbolic. A post here, a like there. A tweet that had nothing to do with anything suddenly got dissected like a coded message. The internet does not believe in coincidence during a rumor cycle. It believes everything is connected, especially when it wants to be. Meanwhile, Cathy White remained a name more than a voice in the conversation. That absence added another layer of discomfort. Stories involving people who can't or won't respond always feel heavier. It leaves the narrative unbalanced, and imbalance fuels speculation. People filled in gaps with assumptions, timelines, and imagined motives, none verified, all persuasive to someone. As the debate raged, something more subtle happened. The conversation stopped being about the allegation itself and started being about power. Who gets protected? Who gets questioned? Who can shape narratives and who becomes collateral? That shift matters because once a rumor becomes symbolic, it outgrows its origin. Fans argued about whether this was fair game or foul play, about whether resurrecting old rumors is accountability or exploitation, about whether silence is dignity or avoidance. And there were no clean answers, because the internet isn't built for nuance. It's built for momentum. By the end of this phase, the rumor had mutated. It was no longer just a claim. It was a stress test, a way for people to measure how untouchable icons really are when implication meets virality. Whether you believed it or not, you couldn't ignore it. And that's the most dangerous place a story can land, because once a narrative becomes unavoidable, the next stage isn't discovery. By the time the dust should have settled, it didn't. It thickened. Because rumors like this don't end with answers. They end with memory. And once a claim sticks in the collective imagination, it doesn't matter how many disclaimers get whispered later. The narrative has already left the building. For Jay-Z, the impact wasn't loud. It was structural. No frantic statements. No emotional denials. Just the same disciplined silence that has defined his brand for decades. To supporters, that silence looked like confidence. To critics, it looked like strategy. And to the internet, it looked like an empty canvas begging for projection. That's the paradox of power. When you've spent years controlling your narrative, people assume every pause is calculated. Every non-response gets read as chess, not coincidence. And once that assumption sets in, silence stops being neutral. It becomes suspicious, even if it shouldn single quotes d. Meanwhile, 50 Cent never had to say another word. He didn't double down. He didn't escalate. He let the storm do what storms do best, spread on its own. That restraint was almost louder than his initial hint. Because when someone known for relentless trolling suddenly steps back, people assume the reason is either boredom or confidence that the fire will burn without help. And burn it did. The aftermath shifted from, "Is this true?" to, "What does this do?" That's where the real consequences live. Not in proof, but in perception. Not in courtrooms, but in conversations. Fans started revisiting Jay-Z's legacy with an asterisk, not because they believed the allegation, but because the allegation existed. And existence alone changes how stories are told. The music didn't stop streaming. The accolades didn't disappear, but the tone changed. Interviews felt different when rewatched. Lyrics got reinterpreted through a more cynical lens. Moments that once read as confidence now read as distance to some viewers. That's the quiet cost of unresolved rumor. It edits the past without asking permission. For Cathy White, the story remained painfully asymmetrical. Her name carried the weight of speculation without the agency of response. In scandals built on implication, absence becomes a megaphone. People fill silence with assumptions, timelines, and motives that may have no basis in reality, but feel convincing enough to stick. And that imbalance made many uncomfortable, even as they kept watching. Industry insiders reacted the way they always do when uncertainty enters the room, cautiously. Not with statements, but with distance. Conversations reportedly shifted. From ignore it to don't touch it. That's not judgment. That's risk management. In entertainment, unanswered questions are liabilities. And no one wants to be collateral in someone else's narrative storm. What truly changed was the cultural framing. This stopped being a single allegation and became a referendum on how rumors survive around power. People debated whether icons are protected by silence or exposed by it, whether trolling counts as journalism in the algorithm age, whether implication without evidence should ever be amplified. Even for entertainment. There were no winners in that debate, only louder sides. Fans of Jay-Z argued convincingly that allegations without proof deserve nothing but dismissal, that repeating them causes harm regardless of intent, that internet curiosity doesn't equal accountability. On the other side, skeptics argued that some stories persist because systems protect the powerful, not because they're false. Both arguments carried emotional weight. Neither produced resolution. And that's the point, because unresolved stories don't conclude, they linger, they become footnotes. Remember when moments that resurface whenever a new controversy hits. This rumor didn't dethrone anyone. It didn't rewrite history. But it introduced friction. And friction changes how smoothly narratives move going forward. As days turned into weeks, the outrage softened into something heavier than anger, caution. People stopped shouting and started watching, waiting to see if this would be referenced again. Waiting to see if legal language would appear. Waiting to see if the story would quietly evaporate or re-emerge with new oxygen. For 50 Cent, the episode reinforced what everyone already knew. He understands the mechanics of attention better than most. He didn't need to prove anything. He didn't need to argue. He pressed a button and observed the reaction. Whether you see that as genius or recklessness depends on where you stand. Either way, the result was the same. The internet did the rest. What this saga ultimately revealed wasn't a hidden truth. It revealed a vulnerability. Not of fact, but of certainty. It showed how quickly certainty erodes when implication meets virality. How easily legacies get reframed when questions outpace answers. And how the algorithm rewards ambiguity far more than clarity. There was no confirmation. There was no denial with teeth. There was only echo, and echoes don't disappear. They fade, then come back when conditions are right. That's why this didn't feel like an ending. It felt like a bookmark. A moment the culture will reference the next time power, silence, and speculation collide. Not because it proved anything, but because it proved how fast the internet can turn maybe into meaning. And this is where things get real. Uncomfortable, because nothing about this story feels finished. If you're thinking, there's no way, that's the whole truth, congratulations. You're thinking exactly like the internet does when it senses smoke but can't find the fire. Rumors like this don't explode and disappear. They linger, resurface, and wait for the next moment when silence feels louder than denial. Now I want your honest take. Did 50 Cent cross a line by dragging this long-buried Cathy White rumor back into the spotlight, or is he just saying out loud what people have whispered for years? Is this reckless trolling disguised as truth or an uncomfortable conversation the culture keeps dodging? Drop your raw opinion in the comments. No safe answers, no PR spin. This comment section is where the real debate lives. If this breakdown had you locked in, smash that like button like it owes you money and keeps pretending it sent the payment. Hit subscribe like you already know the next hip-hop headline is going to be even messier. And turn on notifications because stories like this don't come with warnings. They just pop up and hijack the timeline. This channel doesn't play referee and we don't babysit narratives. We break down the chaos, question the silence, and say what most people only argue about in private group chats. If you're tired of half-truths, viral whispers, and scandals that never get unpacked properly, you're exactly where you need to be. Because let's be real, hip-hop isn't just music. It's power, perception, and the rumors that refuse. To die, stay sharp, stay curious. And remember, when the internet starts whispering and the truth gets blurry,